you all running your hands? Okay.
Point of order. That's getting all the respect.
All right. Welcome to the July 28th meeting of the Rotary Club of Des Moines. I'm Doug Saltzgaver, now 2 times past president, filling in for Matt Music. Apparently COVID got both President Matt and President Biden at the same time. Don't know if they were hanging out together or... Matt is recovering well and is taking this week off to fully quarantine. We wish him good health and look forward to seeing him next week. Well, maybe. Kitty, are you going to break the news to Matt that you found that big bag of mail-in ballots? Turned out that I'm still your president? No? Okay.
I want a hearing.
Today, thanks to Scott Bennett for signing up to give a moment of inspiration. You too can sign up online in the lobby to give the inspiration. As an incentive to perform this duty, you get to sit at the head table, or you get free drinks. Yes, the water, coffee, tea is free. Just talk to Matt about all that when he gets back. Now Scott will give us a moment of inspiration, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance and the 4-way test. Scott?
So with our speaker today, I wanted to dig just a little bit deeper into what cars have meant to us collectively and what they've meant to me individually. And I found the following. This is from The Automobile and the American Life by John Heitman. It's difficult to overestimate the significance of the automobile to the 20th century American history. The automobile and its related infrastructure transformed everyday life as well as our basic values. From top to bottom in American society, it created wealth and jobs. It played a crucial role in transforming America from producers of a limited number of goods, mostly farmers, to mass production, manufacturing, and consumers living in the machine age. It's influenced, among other things, the nature, the structure of the communities we live in, how we define and value community, and architectural style of our homes and other living spaces. Over the course of the 20th century, the car whetted our appetite for new things, conveying status and personal attractiveness, petroleum energy sources, engaging action movies, rock and roll music, and high-fat fast food. To me, the cars meant family vacations with my parents and siblings as a child, freedom as a teenager, the ability to live in a suburb and work downtown, at least before work from home, driving to the hospital in the middle of the night for the birth of my second child, passing along driving skills to that second child, and was my oldest. That's a real parenting moment. Relief from isolation during the pandemic, and back to driving on vacations, this time just with my spouse and me, and freedom to explore. And so think about what cars have meant to you, or even what they've inspired you at times. With that, the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And the 4-way test.
Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Meet and greet.
Come on. You got a date finally. Yeah,
The name of that book.
Yeah, right. Right.
3 guests, so if you would please stand when I call your name. Sarah Weirden, East Village Physical Therapy, who is back for a 2nd time. Apparently I didn't scare her off last week. She's a guest of Kathy Cody. Zach, I'm going to butcher it again, Hanadel, guest of Mark Schnell. And, back by popular demand, returning Rotary Youth Exchange student from Chile, who our club hosted, Jave. And she is a guest of Art Fellaine. And now, not that you're tired of listening to me, but Randy Worth will now introduce today's keynote speaker. Randy?
Thank you, past President Doug. I promise you that Scott and I did not collude on our duties today, but I'll just say great minds run on the same track. And you'll see why here in just a minute, and hope we don't derail. So where were you in '62? Some of you say, huh? Some of you can't remember. For the rest of us, we're going to take a tour of auto dealers that used to be downtown. Yeah. I was only 10 in '62, so forgive me if I miss one, okay? So if we come off of Fluor Drive, we're going to run down Locust. There we are at the Meredith Building. Boom, here we go. First stop, George Walker Ford. Pretty much next door, Dave Ostrom Imports. Betts Cadillac, Bob Brown, Jack Cowden Buick, Renault across the street, as well as Orville Lowell Midtown Motors, Mercury Lincoln. Now we go across the river. Friedman, Chrysler Plymouth, American Motors, AMC and Jeep. Up to the Capitol, around and come back down on Grand. Howlett Chevrolet and Higgins Ford. We cross the river. We see Gary Lilly Volkswagen, Cars Incorporated, Little John up 4th Street to Sumner Pontiac. Back down to Grand, Little John up 6th Avenue, Holmes Oldsmobile. We cut across high into Ingersoll, Crescent Chevrolet, Metro Ford, Hawkeye Dodge, and other smaller dealers sprinkled around town. These dealers, like those since 1919, belong to the Iowa Automobile Dealers Association. And our guest today is Bruce Anderson, president of the Iowa Auto Dealers Association, which is a trade association representing Iowa's franchised motor vehicle dealers. Bruce is a graduate of Drake University and the Drake University School of Law, member of the former director of the National Association of Dealer Councils, and immediate past chair of the Automotive Trade Association Executives, which represents more than 100 national, state, provincial, and metropolitan franchises, new car dealer associations in the U.S. and Canada. He and his wife, Mary Moffett Anderson, reside in Boone and have 3 daughters, 3 grandchildren. Please welcome Bruce.
Get this going. Randy, thank you. And Scott, thank you. I hope I can live up to the automotive theme that you guys have put together. Kitty, thank you for putting a clock here. My goal today is to finish talking before you finish listening. Doug, as soon as you stand up, I'm going to shut up. I know you usually save some time for questions at the end, but feel free to pop up. Let's have a conversation. Everybody loves talking cars. I'm more of a car law guy and a car policy guy than a car guy, but please feel free to pepper me with questions. As Randy said, the Iowa Auto Dealers Association is a 103-year-old trade association of the franchised motor vehicle dealers, the new car dealers. There is, we'll get to the numbers, there's about 3,000 car dealers in Iowa, 3,000 licensed dealerships. About 300 of them have new cars and trucks. and about 1,000 of them didn't even sell a car last year of the pre-owned. We'll talk about why that is in a minute. So a little bit about the dealer body. It is 1919 was a transformational time. We were kind of moving from horse and buggy to the Tin Lizzie. There were more, frankly, feed mills in Iowa than gas stations at that point. We are in a somewhat similar transformational time right now. So here's what the dealer body looks like. And again, this is the franchised new car and truck dealers in Iowa. 271 rooftops. That's not different franchises, so Willis counts as one there, even though they have 7 different brands. 52 new truck dealerships. That's the new Peterbilt store in Ankeny, O'Halloran International, out by Adventureland. Together, those franchised dealers employ right at 15,000 Iowans. That's about 1% of Iowa's workforce reported to duty this morning in a new car or new truck store. When you take the total payroll, it's $1 billion total payroll for those 15,000 folks. Those are good jobs. That's I'm not an advanced student of mathematics, but I think you'll get someplace close to $70,000 if you divide 15,000 into $1 billion. Total sales, $12 billion. Dealers it's a high revenue business. Cars and trucks are expensive. And I'll pause there for just a minute to talk about the economic impact. Iowa has something unique, and the Dealers Association and the franchise dealers are part of what's called the Good Road Coalition in Iowa. It's a group who you think would be, it's the car dealers, it's the truck dealers, but it's the road builders as well. People that produce concrete equipment to build roads, etc. What's unique in Iowa, there may be other states, I don't know if we're absolutely unique, but it's unusual as compared to some neighboring states, and that is that we have a constitutionally protected road use tax fund. And I'm going to have to dig in my pocket here to get the cheat sheet on where those funds come from. But the vehicle sales, the $12 billion revenue that we get there, cars are not subject to sales tax. We don't pay the 7% sales tax when you buy a new car. You pay a 5% fee on new registration. And that registration fee, just like the annual license plate fee and gasoline sales, the tax on gasoline are all constitutionally protected, and those funds can only be used for highway and road purposes. Kind of give you a general idea of how much money is getting generated there. Iowa spends about $2.4 billion a year in building and maintaining its roadways. Of that, fuel taxes represents 28%, about $670 million in state fuel taxes. The annual registration fee, that's your license fee, is about $651 million. Washington, D.C. sends in $585 million a year, and the tax on new cars is $384 million a year, roughly 16-17% of all road building funds. I'm going to pause just a second. I don't want to make your eyes glass over talking tax policy, but Iowa, I think, kind of has it upside down. Many states do. It's expensive. The tax on cars is high. It's not an under-taxed item at all. But I get the question frequently, especially at the Capitol, how come the tax on cars is only 5% when it's 7% on everything else? Why are car dealers getting by so cheap? Car buyers getting by so cheap? It's the license plate is the answer. Cars last a long time, and Iowa knows how to tax cars. The formula for the first 7 years of a car's life is 1% of MSRP. Now, we're kind of in some strange times right now. MSRP and retail value are pretty close to each other. Typically they're not. So it's 1% of MSRP, not 1% of sales price, plus 40 cents for every 100 pounds of weight. So by the time that car is 7 years old, you've paid the 5% initially, plus you paid another 7%, 1% each year. You're at 12% by the time the car is 7 years old. and the average car on Iowa roads is 12 years old. So there's a lot of revenue in license plates. I think that's enough for that slide. Registration data. We can milk a little information out of this. We were talking about the state of the industry, how are things going? They're weird. Things are really weird right now. I mean, you're used to driving past a car dealership and seeing some of these lot displays, the outside display area. There's so much concrete there, you can almost see the curvature of the earth. They're so huge, and they're empty, or they're at least depleted. And the indoor showrooms have really turned into dance halls. There's a lot of kind of what is going on in the first floor of this building. Antique displays. There's some really, they're putting their collector cars in there because they don't have any inventory to sell. So here's the numbers. It's missing a little bit of context. Pre-pandemic, Iowans were buying about 165,000 new cars and trucks a year. 165. We're currently, last year we were at 130. So we're off the pace, and the pace has slowed a bit. We're at a monthly average of 9,554 new cars. That's registrations in Iowa. That's what Iowans are buying, not necessarily from new car dealers in Iowa. The Omaha dealers are pumping some in. That guy in Quad Cities might be buying it from Illinois, etc. But Iowans are buying right at 9,500 new cars. That's about 70% of what's typical. Here's the reason: it's all supply chain management. Primarily started 2 years ago with the chip crisis, and new dealers are getting about 70% of their typical allocation. So the manufacturers are getting 70% of what they typically get to them, and they are pre-sold. So when they roll off the truck, they're not going in the showroom, they're going into the delivery bay and getting delivered. So there's some pent-up demand, and dealers are begging for new inventory, customers are begging for vehicles, the wait time. It's not just chips, there's other part supply issues, they're working through it. Most manufacturers, frankly, I blame them. They canceled their chip orders when the pandemic hit. They didn't know what was going to happen. They didn't know if they were going to need them. They canceled their orders, and the appliance and computer manufacturers soaked up those orders, and the car manufacturers are now playing catch up. They're all trying to figure out how to do it on their own. They're not going to just build cars. They're going to build chips. They're going to build chips going forward. You're seeing a shift in how you buy a new car. Obviously, if you go past Des Moines Toyota, the right corner, they used to have about 400 new cars in inventory there. Typical dealer pre-pandemic would have a 45-day supply. They'd have enough new cars on hand every day that they would have a 45-day supply. Now they typically, it's not unusual to see zero and typically single digits. The cars you're seeing on the lots are pre-owned cars that they're getting at auctions. They're getting grandma and grandpa who aren't driving anymore. They're trying to buy them at private sale events, etc. So those are probably used cars that you're seeing on the lot, and the manufacturer is trying to shift, frankly, to a pre-order system. Mary and I just got a new truck. It took about 7 months to get here, and Mary's brother's the dealer, so for goodness sake, it takes a while. So that's a particular problem for that buyer who, the three places where dealers see it as a problem. Number one is that impulse buyer. It's pretty hard to make an impulse purchase when you have to wait 7 months for delivery. Now my 7 months is not typical. Mary had some pretty high expectations on trim packages, etc., that made us wait. But you're gonna wait weeks, if not months, to get exactly what you want now. So the impulse buyer is problematic, as is that guy that has the total collision loss, total mechanical failure. Something like that happens, you hit a deer and you need a new car, you may be getting a used car while you wait for the new car to come right now until inventories straighten out. The manufacturers frankly like this. Pre-pandemic, every ad you saw for any motor vehicle, whether it's truck, sedan, anything, would always have the incentive package, right? They're telling you how much the rebate is. The average rebate has gone from over $3,500 to under $1,000 right now. They don't have to discount them because people are standing in line to buy them today. So there is a move at the manufacturer level, and understand our members, the dealers in Iowa are independent businesses. They're not owned or operated by the manufacturer. What the manufacturer's wanting to do is create a reservation system, make the dealer an agency, make you shop online, make your buying decision there, and then you don't have the carrying costs associated with a 45-day inventory. I don't think that'll last. This is just a prediction. It's worth what you paid for it. But there are 30 different manufacturers out there, and they are all competing with each other, and they are all wanting to gain market share. And I just don't think you can gain market share with online sales. I think people want to kick tires, they want to shop, and they're going to, as they try to expand market share and get back to normal production levels, they're going to repopulate the lots. This is my prediction. I have pulled all we're going to get out of that slide. These we'll do kind of quickly. This is, I think, an interesting graphic and kind of an exercise in math that's kind of interesting. Where are the dealerships? Who's being served? Those white counties, there's 15 of them, don't have a new car dealership. There are 15 counties in Iowa that do not have a franchise new or car truck dealer in them. And the concentration is really a function of population and number of franchises. Now, the number of franchises, this is the number of franchises per thousand, is driven by a Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram store. I'm going to count as 4 franchises in that equation. So the example here, a community that's being very, very well served is Ringgold County. Down here in Mount Ayr, you can see it's dark blue on a per capita basis. There's 81 franchises per 100,000. That's because there's only 4,300 people down there, and they have 7 franchises. It's one store, Glendenning Motors. They do a great job in their community, but they have Buick, GMC, Chevrolet, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram. So a lot of selection for very few number of people. Kind of the reverse happens when you get into the metropolitan areas. While there are all the franchises are represented, there's so many people that they each have to serve more. And there's that's what we look like. There's the family portrait of the Iowa Automobile Dealers Association, where they're located. And some of them you can see are it's a little tenuous. That bottom tier of counties, that's where half of the 15 dealerless counties are. And again, you can see Ringgold here. They've got 7 brands, but they're all under one roof. And a lot of counties, especially in northwest Iowa, have just a single franchise. There's a Ford store in the county, or there's a Chevy store in the county. I won't stand up here and extol the virtues of the franchise system, although I strongly believe in it. It provides a network, and this is unique in Iowa, and that is that dealers have a statutory obligation to perform warranty repairs for their line makes. Most states, if you read your warranty on a new car, it is a contractual relationship between the manufacturer and the customer. The dealer's not a party to that contract. And the thinking being, wherever you happen to break down, if you're driving a GMC, you can go anywhere that you see the GMC badge. Sometimes it's even richer than that, because a Chevrolet or a Cadillac or a Buick dealer can also perform warranty and recall work on your GMC product. Iowa says the dealer has to also. So when a line make goes away, Hummer, for example, which has come back under a different brand, but when Hummer went away, frankly, so did the warranties. They got kind of flushed through the bankruptcy system. In Iowa, those dealers were on the hook and required to repair it wherever you showed up, wherever you broke down. So kind of a neat feature. The Probably worth noting at the peak of our rooftop count, which would have been mid-70s, certainly back in 1962, Randy gave you the tour of the franchise new car dealers. That was really largely just downtown. I mean, you didn't talk about Hummels and Beaverdale. We're selling Studebakers over in Beaverdale in 1962. The dealer count, the franchised new car dealer count in Des Moines proper today is 0. There is not a franchise new car dealer inside of the city limits of Des Moines. At the peak in the early 70s, there were right at 1,000 new car dealers. Counts under 300 now as consolidation happens. I've got 5-6 minutes. We can talk about the transition now to electric. It's real. And I just got back from a national meeting with my counterparts that run the state and metro and Canadian dealer associations. And they're frankly making fun of me because of an interesting bill we have in Iowa. I get it. Corn is king. We sell a lot of cars and trucks to farmers. We sell a lot of cars and trucks to people who produce and sell ethanol and soy diesel. I know we're a farm state. I get that. But the manufacturers don't. The shift is happening. It's happening fast. Buick has, Cadillac is rolling out an all-electric lineup. Buick has announced that they will be entirely electric, only selling electric vehicles by 2030. Here's what they're making fun of me about. They had a couple of interesting bills in Iowa, one of which is now law, and that is the consumer choice bill on flex fuel, that the petroleum marketers are required now to have a flex fuel pump. They have to sell E85 unless they meet some certain exceptions and limitations, largely because of volume or size of the business. There are only 3 manufacturers that make an E85 engine today. GMC, Ford, Chevrolet. Nobody else is even making E85. And almost every single manufacturer has announced their conversion date, the date by which they will be selling nothing but electric vehicles. Got a long way to go. Another number or two I scribbled down just to share with you. There's what, 3.3 million people in Iowa? We have 4.3 million vehicles registered. We got 1 million more cars and trucks in the state than we do people. Of those 4.3 million vehicles, as of December 31st of last year, I know we're selling the heck out of them. I'll show you all the electric vehicles that are available in a minute here. Of those 4.3 million registered vehicles in Iowa, 8,400 are EVs. Point of adoption, and there's 1,800 of them in Polk County. Johnson County, which you think would be leading out on EV adoption, was at 883. That said, they're coming. We have over 500 public charging ports in Iowa at 250 different locations. The federal legislation that the Build Back Better money that is going towards infrastructure has some interesting components to it. The plan is to incentivize with that money placement of EV charging stations along interstate corridors every 50 miles. So if you want to put in a charging station and have the federal government subsidize that purchase or that installation, if you're within a mile of the interstate and you're more than 50 miles from another one, they got some money for it. This is breaking news. Senator Manchin, signed off with Senator Schumer yesterday on the big reconciliation package. That does have an EV component in it. Obviously not enacted. Senator Sinema, I know, is a wild card at least. I don't know if it's going to be law or not. But that package has an EV incentive program in it. The current federal EV incentive is $7,500. And there is a per manufacturer limit. Once you hit your limit, you sold X amount. Tesla no longer can you get it. Chevrolet's blown through theirs. This new package has a $7,500 incentive that would run for 10 years through model year 2032 If you buy a new EV, this package would give you $7,500. Currently, that is not needs tested. There's no sliding scale, doesn't matter, millionaires, billionaires get $7,500 from the federal government to incentivize them to buy their third EV. Not so, that this one has a $150,000 income limit, 300 per family, so still a pretty high limit. Good for 10 years, no manufacturer limits. Just every new EV sold for 10 years would come with a $7,500 check from the government. An interesting component to it is the first resale, the first time a electric vehicle was sold to a second owner, a $4,000 credit. So
It has to be through a dealer, correct?
it has to be through a dealer, yeah. To the money is actually paid through the dealership instead of as a refundable credit on the back end, and that's proposal at this point. These are the EVs that you can buy at IADA members. I understand Tesla's not on the list. That is the highest registered EV in Iowa today. Chevrolet, frankly, is gaining on them fast, as is Ford, because of the Mach-E, and the Lightning is now hitting showrooms. So BEVs, that's the battery, pure battery electric on the left. Plug-in hybrids, these are the ones that are going to have a couple hundred miles range. These are going to have a 35 to 40 miles of electric range, and then a standard gasoline engine on the back end. But these are the cars currently available for order. You're not going to find much of anything new without ordering it, but that's what's available now. So they are moving fast. This was interesting. It took me a little while to figure out how you charge a car. And there are 3 levels of chargers out there. There might be some EV owners that know this, and this is old news, but it's interesting, and it takes some planning if you're going to charge instead of go to the fuel pump. A level 1 charger is a 110. That's just a standard plug. It probably comes with the car free of charge, and you just plug it into your 110 outlet in your garage. It will add 4 to 5 miles, 4 to 5 miles per hour. So if you've got a new Ford Lightning F-150 and you plug it into a level 1 charger, that thing has about 300 miles of range. You're gonna park it for 4 days to get it charged. A level 2 charger is going to cost you $2,500 to $5,000. You're going to have to get a new box, electric service into your home. That adds 12 to 60 miles per hour. That's the overnight charging. That's the home base that you probably have at the library, the grocery stores, etc. Level 3 charging. A level 3 charger is going to cost you $30,000 to $50,000. That's the one that you can get to an 80% charge in about half an hour. It's the one that you'll see along the highway. That's the one that the federal incentives are coming along to. Those add 3 to 20 miles per minute, 3 to 20 miles of range. That's what I've got there. I'm running short on time. I don't know if there's anything else that we can look at my notes real quick. I think I've covered what I had to. Questions, concerns, comments, accusations? Start here, work back.
So it looks like, I think it's Ford that is trying to market new EV cars without going through the dealer network.
Depends on who you talk to at Ford about that, but if you listen to Jim Farley, who's the president and CEO, that seems to be what they're doing. Their official kind of, so what they're doing, there's going to be 3 Ford divisions. And right now there's a Ford North America, there's a Ford Europe, and there's a Ford Asia. And they say, we're not going to think regional anymore, we're going to think powertrain, and we're going to have an E Ford division, we're gonna have an ICE, internal combustion engine Ford division, and we are going to have a commercial Ford division, vans, medium duty trucks, that kind of thing. And what they're saying is it will all be a reservation agency system delivered through their dealers. And each of those silos will have a dealer or agency network. What they're not saying is it is the dealer network. So whether the current dealer body, they're all in, they're there today on internal combustion, they're saying those folks will remain. The commercial Ford dealers, the fleet guys that are out there today would remain. The E-dealers, I'll tell you, everybody I've talked to thinks they're gonna be an E-dealer, but it's only if you make the infrastructure commitment, which is gonna be, these things are heavy, you need a forklift to get the batteries in and out, you have to have this level 3 charging station, you're gonna need 2 of those in, at least, in the service department, you're gonna need 2 more for your customers outside, you're dropping $250,000 just on chargers before you've sold your first unit. But that's the way agency, is what they're talking about. Thanks.
So I'm curious, I understand that Tesla with their unique and proprietary charger units, you can only use a Tesla with a Tesla. Were those numbers in the numbers that you shared?
No, these are non-Tesla charging stations.
Yeah.
And but you're right, it's kind of a Betamax VHS issue.
And then I also curious what you think the prospects are, because I understand they're trying to get Tesla to make a new business model and open theirs up to anybody and make them usable. What do you think? Is it gonna happen? I know that's hard to predict.
Yeah, Tesla's hard to predict.
Yeah.
Tesla has an adapter that you can charge the Teslas on any of these other public charging stations, but you can't charge an F-150 on a Tesla piece. I think the Tesla charger's got to go the way of Betamax. It has to be uniform plugging. That might be someplace the government has to help.
I think that's what they're working on,
Yeah.
is to get Tesla to be open
Right,
source, so to
right.
speak.
Is the industry making a critical mistake by transitioning to full EV in 10 years? We have not solved the problem of what the demand on the load would be, the grid would be, by a long stretch.
It's a huge problem, and battery raw materials are a huge problem.
And it seems that every electric vehicle today ultimately is powered by fossil fuels, because fossil fuels are the ones that are generating the energy that goes into the electric grid.
I smile at the California Air Regulation Board, which calls these zero emission vehicles. Depending on where you plug them in, they're coal powered. They just are. It's a huge issue. And I mentioned feed mills versus gas stations 100 years ago. That's where we are now. And it's not just building the charging stations. You're going to have to build, the transformer stations and the lines. It's huge. Yeah. It's a huge transition. Although, as I say, the average vehicle on the road is 12 years old. So, even if they completely convert new sales by 2030 to electric, you're still looking at, another 15 to 20 before that rolls in. Is that enough time? That's a roll of the dice. Should go here. Chuck.
Yes, my grandfather had the second car in Des Moines. Do you know what the first car dealers were in the city of Des Moines?
I don't, but I could check. We have records back to 1919. I don't know that answer, but I can find out. Let's swap cards and I can get that information. We have the directory and the attendance list at we were the motor vehicle trade bureau in those days, but we've got the data. I can find it.
Why haven't you mentioned public transport? You go to any place in Europe, it's just a different situation.
Yeah, I haven't mentioned it because I don't work for them, but it's if you talk to progressive dealers and frankly, and I'm not talking progressive politically, just the ones that are forward thinking, they don't even think of themselves as car dealers anymore. They think of themselves as mobility providers. But absolutely, that's the answer. And you're seeing it in especially in cities. The new Hilton over here has exactly 0 parking places associated with it. Public transit is clearly an answer.
Where are they on self-driving cars?
It is, I'm actually serve on there's an automated task force in Iowa working on automation. They're not as far along as they would tell you. But you know, adaptive cruise control, lane deviation warnings, it's coming, and it's coming fast. And Iowa's a leader on it. University of Iowa has a you know, the self-driving simulator, and really the technology is happening there. So it's coming fast. I don't have a timetable for it. We are really at level 2 automation now, which is cruise control and lane deviation. There's a level 3, which still has a driving steering wheel, and then level 4 is pure self-driving. So I think within that same 10 to 15 year schedule, we're going to be seeing driverless cars.
As the you know, direct-to-consumer model grows, how big of a dent, I guess, so far has that made in Iowa automobile sales? Because I know, and I might not understand it correctly, but the reason we don't have a Tesla dealership is they're not allowed here, right? Is that true or false?
Iowa made the decision in 1970, like a lot of other states, that manufacturers, with a couple of very limited exceptions, which really are to assist in minority representation of the dealer networks, but Iowa made that decision that there will not be direct manufacturer sales. I won't get into the wonky economic theories behind that. It's really vertical integration, right? The means of production will not control the means of distribution, so you get inter-brand competition. Carl's going to give you a price point on a Chevy. You can go to Bob Brown, he'll give you one too, and you go down to Glendenning Motors in Mount Ayr, and they'll shoot your price. So it's really a competitive kind of issue. There's also some consumer protections in there. That said, I don't think there's anybody in Iowa who wants a Tesla, who can afford a Tesla, who doesn't have a Tesla. It's not illegal to register them, it's just...
And I use them as an example, you know,
Yeah.
Rivian does it that way, and there's just more and more things are going that way. And quite frankly, I mean, like, if I told my son he has to go to the store to buy something, he's 19, what are you talking about? Why would I ever go somewhere?
Yeah, I think it's actually going the other way. I think Tesla is. You know, they originally had gallerias. They didn't have service centers. They had gallerias, and these things weren't going to break down. Remember, and they had gallerias in the high level malls, and it was all online at Galleria. And they've now gone to this platform where they've got service centers, and they almost are starting to look like dealerships. My theory on it is that Elon Musk doesn't want a dealer network because he wants to be able to sell the company to someone like General Motors or Ford or Stellantis, who does have a dealer network. And that buyer might be more interested if they don't get 500 dealers with it. Just a thought.
Earlier you discussed the highway trust fund and the sources of revenue to go in it. I think certainly an elephant in the room has to be what happens to the trust fund if we make this massive shift that we're talking about.
Yeah, the legislature attempted to address it. We'll see how it goes. The two things that they've done so far, one's already fully implemented, and that is plug-in hybrids have a surcharge. They pay the same annual license plate fee as any other vehicle, calculated exactly the same way, plus $65. And a full electric, calculated the same way, plus $130. There's a phase-in, and I can't tell you off the top of my head, but we're very close, within 2 or 3 years of non-residential charging having a surcharge. You pay more for electricity that goes into cars than goes into your air fryer or refrigerator. I don't know if that'll fully make it up or not, because electric cars are heavier, frankly, than internal combustion cars, so they're tough on the road. Doug stood up. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Bruce, for spending time with our club today and sharing your very interesting and informative presentation. Time will tell on what all happens with this, won't it? We're donating a book today in your honor through the Rotary Rosie Reader Van through the Des Moines Public Library Foundation.
Thank you.
In 2020, our Rotary Club of Des Moines Foundation donated $40,000 to purchase this van through our community grant program. $40,000, I think that's what I spend in gas a month these days. Thank you all for being with us here today, and our guests, Sarah, Jeff, Zach, and Javi. Upcoming meetings. Next week, Bill Wright, Senior VP, Managing Director of CBRE Hubble Commercial Realty. August 11th, Penny, former diplomat with the U.S. Foreign Service. That's probably going to be interesting. Not that any of the others aren't. August 18th, Jeff Fleming, Des Moines Arts Center. Thank you for being with us today and being part of your Rotary Club of Des Moines. We are adjourned.